Hey guys, Zach here. So if you are watching this podcast, I apologize. We forgot to hit record on the cameras for the first part. The audio is still there, so the important part is still there. So the video will kick in about halfway through the podcast. So we promise we'll get this to work right one of these days. We appreciate you watching, and here's the show. So we're recording. Scott, give us a clap to. Okay.
Or 3 claps.
3 claps.
Well, I'm thinking about what the prophet was told. Remember? Or
that's
the
true.
king said,
Yeah.
strike the table.
Strike
He
the
struck
table.
3 times. You should have struck 6 or 7 times.
What? The
Which-
directions weren't clear.
It's true.
Which I never understood that because it's like,
I
you told
know.
me to strike. You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
if I had stricken more times, I don't know. I've never understood. I've never
Those
understood that.
prophets were so touchy.
I know.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah.
If he'd have struck it 6 or 7 times, the prophet might have said, I didn't tell you to strike it.
Right,
every time.
right.
Just
It's
strike
like,
it
whoa,
once.
whoa,
Where's your faith?"
chill. Yeah.
Just like when Moses struck the rock twice, but then he also said, "Shh, must we bring you
Must
water?" Like
we.
he was part of the, and when it
That's
was
right.
just God. So I think there was
Well,
more to
that
it than
second
just striking
time,
the
he
rock.
was only supposed to speak to the rock.
Oh, that's
true.
right.
Yeah,
that's
that's
right.
true. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and hey, we've started.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Living Word Family Church podcast. I'm the man behind the board, Zach Bensel. There to my left is Pastor Scott Millis,
Hey, everybody.
senior pastor, and then we got youth director Matt Gordon. Wow, Matt
Oh,
Greider over
yes,
there.
thank
We got
you.
too many Matts in this church.
Matt Greider.
Matt
Remember that?
Greider.
Greider. I literally had a kid in one of my Parkland class that was Matt Greider, and his
Wow.
middle initial was J, same as mine.
wow.
It was
Wow.
It was interesting. So hey, how's it going? Glad to have you all here for
Good.
our second relaunch podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
The rebrand.
Good to be back.
Rebrand.
Yeah. rebrand. Back in
Just
action.
here, taking it easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sure.
we are working on hopefully getting some guests in, and I think Pastor
Yes.
Scott mentioned that last week.
Yep.
But very getting our feet wet, getting off the ground, launching it up, and so very
Yeah, I just
excited
kind of
about
wanted to say that too. We're obviously looking. We want to have a little bit more of a structured format. I mean, I enjoy just talking with you guys, but it'd be nice to have. Our plan, of course, is to have something a little more specific to slice and dice. Meanwhile, we are just kind of getting back in the groove, and we
Yeah.
even if we don't have a hard and fast list of things to talk about, we still want to get together and kind of get back in the habit of getting used to this, so that things go smoothly when we have a little more
Yeah.
order to
Yeah,
it. So thanks for
absolutely.
tuning in. If you're tuning in, and I hope and trust you'll be blessed by what does come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And-
well, and I would say if in the meantime you're like, I don't want to listen to these guys anymore, you can go back to some of our previous podcasts because we had some excellent guests. In
Yeah,
the
we
past.
did.
We had,
We
and
did.
just a
Great
couple will come to
discussions.
mind. Yeah. I mean, Keith Hershey, I think, was the most recent one we did. We had
Yeah, he probably was.
Brigadier General
Mark Jackson.
and then we had Joe Thomas.
Joe Thomas
Joe
did
Thomas
an
was my
excellent
favorite.
3-parter
Yes.
on the
When did-
Reformation.
Was I there when we had Keith Hershey? Was that one that I wasn't there for? I do not remember that.
I don't
was-
think you were because it was like a Saturday night.
Saturday
gotcha,
night,
gotcha.
yeah.
Saturday night. And I got stuff going on.
Because
Saturday
with
night.
guest speaker. it
Yeah,
was,
that's true. Yeah, that's
You know,
true.
we got to find a time to knock this out.
Yeah,
So.
which is
We're going to have Keith in again next year, sometime probably.
is that scheduled or just kind
It's
of
not
like on the?
scheduled yet. It's just that we've
Okay.
set it up for him to come in. I had some great conversation with Keith up in Michigan a few weeks ago.
Oh,
And,
that's right. Tell us about that a little bit about what.
Yeah, Keith and Heidi Hershey head up a ministry called Mutual Faith, and they have set up a number of what they call life centers. There's one in California. There's one, I think, somewhere in Africa. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly where. There's one in the Philippines, and there is one in Lebanon, in Beirut. That's kind of their crown jewel. They do it. It's been.
Oh, wow.
In fact, they started a Bible school there, a Rhema Bible school in Lebanon at Life Center.
Now, I think that was the one he talked about in the podcast.
It was just getting started.
Yeah.
Then. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's up and running with 90 students this year.
Praise
Just
God.
heard
Well,
that
that's-
from Tony and from Keith. And but he's just such a blessing of a guy, and he just loves pouring into people's lives. And one of the things that he's always got a great big vision. He was looking at a closed down military school there in his hometown of Colon, Michigan, or outside of Colon, Michigan, near Sturgis, maybe, Michigan. And he had a vision of buying this whole campus and turning it into a Bible school, a life center, and it was just a great big thing. And he said, I just couldn't get anybody to embraced the vision, including my
Wow.
wife. He said, so that's a check. That's all the check I needed from God. But then this resort on Sturgeon Lake opened up, and he got it for a song. And it's a
Wow.
beautiful, beautiful place. And they had to do some renovations to it. But it's this beautiful, quiet place with little cabins, cottages, and a common area, a game room, and just plenty of room
Wow.
and lakefront property. And it's he makes it available for, I think anybody can rent it out as a retreat. That's what it's called, the retreat at Miller's Crossing. And so churches can take their staff there for a retreat and things like that. But he opens it up for a couple weeks a year, where he just invites pastors to come and stay
Yeah,
on
that's
the
cool.
house, as it were. And we
cool.
were blessed to be able to join him, and it was just so refreshing. So,
Would that be, now that you've been there, would that be a good spot for like a marriage retreat or something?
oh
the
yeah,
church could
yeah,
host?
absolutely.
Man,
Anything
that would be
like that.
so
It's just,
cool.
it would lend itself
Family
to
camp?
a lot of family camp. I'm not sure it's big enough for something like that, but anyway.
So, speaking of guest ministers, who's the next person? Do we have someone on the docket to come in?
Not until April, but it's Christopher Allam,
Yes.
which is
Ooh,
everybody's going to be excited to
Yes.
hear he's coming back.
We still
He's-
get his newsletter. Like that is the most, like the thickest, most detailed newsletter of any minister I think we've ever gotten.
Really?
We get him at home because we signed up for
Okay.
his list last time he was here. Man, they just do some incredible work
He is
all over
busy,
the place.
busy, and he has huge meetings and miracles and signs and wonders, and yet he is the most low key.
Yep.
He is the farthest thing from a self promoter. He manages to strike it just looks like the perfect balance. Look, we need to show you what God is doing, but
Right.
it's all to God be the
Right,
glory.
absolutely.
He's such a clear thinker. I love his Facebook posts because they are so down to earth. And they just he tips over a lot of sacred cows in the Word of Faith community without dissing Word of Faith. He's a Word
Yeah.
of Faith guy. I mean, he
Yeah.
believes in all this stuff, but he just doesn't believe in, again, some shallow aspects of it.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Maybe some aspects that have become more religion than word of faith.
Right.
Or
something
even
like that.
more exaggerated than they
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
be. And I remember when he was here, when was that? Last year. It was been a
last
little
year,
bit. Yeah.
right. Yeah, it would have been late last year.
So when he was here, I remember him specifically during one of his messages kind of mentioning that. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting take on that. But I liked
Yeah.
what he said about it. It was it really checked with me too.
Yeah.
And we can even maybe post a link to some of those old messages and stuff on the podcast as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
So he's the next one we have. I'm not saying we absolutely won't have somebody between now and then, but probably not for the rest of this year. We're number one, it's a very busy season, and
Yes.
number two, once
Yep.
you get too late in the year or too early in the new year, it's dicey when you plan on somebody flying in because you don't never know what the weather's going to be like.
yeah.
So I like to wait until at least March to schedule our first guest speaker. And since he's coming in April, probably won't schedule anybody before him.
So now would he typically be here for Sunday and Sunday night? correct?
That's going to partly depend on his schedule, but that would be my desire.
Okay.
Get somebody like him in.
Man, it'd be
get him
nice
for
to
a
have
couple
him
of
on the
sessions.
podcast.
It would be cool. Yeah.
Would
Oh, I'm sure he'd love to do it.
that.
Yeah.
Love to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
They usually fly in on Saturday, right?
They do.
Yeah. So
So we get him in on a Sunday or a Saturday evening, maybe.
yeah, we could
That'd
figure
be
it out. We
awesome.
could figure it
Try
out.
to make that happen.
Absolutely.
So there's something to look forward to on the podcast.
Yes,
I mean,
definitely.
why would he not want to be on
On
a
this-
podcast
yes.
with
Oh.
the kind of audience that we pull?
Exactly.
I mean,
Like,
exactly.
seriously.
Yeah.
I mean,
Why settle for reaching 30,000 people at a crusade?
Right.
When you can reach at least 3.
hi, Mom. Glad you're watching. So what's new? What's coming up at Living Word? What do we got coming up?
Well, October 31st is the devil's birthday. So we're having a little protest here.
No. Oh my gosh, that's Good timing on that.
That's
by the
pretty
way.
good.
Yeah.
What is coming up? We've got at the beginning of November. We've got some big things happening.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Community Thanksgiving service.
Yeah.
Community Thanksgiving, sir, and then the which is new this year. We've never done it. Is the Operation Christmas Child?
Yes.
The gift
shoe
boxes.
boxes.
That shoe boxes. I always call it Operation Shoe Boxes. Somebody correct me.
Right.
No, that's not technically what it's called. I
Operation
always
Christmas box.
Yeah. Operation Shoe Christmas.
Christmas
Yeah.
shoes. Oh,
But that's-
that's a song.
oh,
wasn't
yeah.
it?
We've been, and that's been something Beth and Sandy have been heading up, and
Yeah,
really
Sandy
kind
had
of
to remind me because I'm getting more and more excited about this. Number one, we're showing a video about
Every week.
Operation Christmas Child every week, and every video I see is such a powerful testimony.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I just get happier and happier that we decided to do this because it's a commitment.
Yeah.
We committed to filling 100 boxes, but in addition to collecting all the things that are going in these boxes, and you can check this out online. You can just, rather than me spending a lot of time describing it for anybody who might be listening who doesn't know what it is, you can check it out pretty easily. But basically, we're packing gift boxes and sending them to underprivileged people to bless them. And what we're hearing is testimony after testimony from somebody who received one of those boxes as a child, and it changed their life.
Yeah.
It sent them on a trajectory that brought them into a saving relationship with Christ. But I asked Sandy the other day, how did we get hooked up with this? And she reminded me this was Beth's idea to start out with. So kudos to my lovely wife for grabbing onto that.
And huge thanks to Sandy for she's here almost every day organizing
She is doing something
stuff.
all the time. She is such a gift. And I'm so excited about this Sunday because we'll be sharing about the books that are going in these boxes.
Yes.
I knew nothing about this.
Yes.
There is a booklet that goes in each box that is a clear presentation of the gospel, and they're beautifully done. They're illustrated and everything. And an invitation in the back of this book to come back the following week. And if they come back, then they get a Bible and a study guide. That's really, and it's stuff, it's beautiful. It's not just, we're going to do this on the cheap. I would understand that, get it into more hands, but this is something they're going to want to have. And this is where discipleship is spelled out and everything.
Exactly.
And all done in the language of the company, the country that it's going to. That was my first question when I saw it. And they've got these things going into, I'll have the stats on Sunday, but well over 100 countries and well over 100 languages and dialects. So
that's awesome.
That's awesome. Do we know, do our shoeboxes, do we know where they go?
We don't know yet. And I don't know when we'll know that, but we'll find out.
Well, they'll send us, they would have, if we pack the boxes, they would have to send us the books that go in, right? So we would know then.
Well, yeah, we ought to know something about that. Yeah,
okay.
the language. You're right. You're right. We'll find something out.
So and we do that packing is November 4th. So that's coming up.
Right.
That's coming up.
Yeah, and as I said, we've committed to filling 100 boxes, and I think I interrupted myself. In addition to packing these boxes, each box costs $10 to ship, and so this is a $1,000 commitment that our mission committee has taken on, and it's dipping our toe in the water. I'd anticipate. I'd love to see that number at least doubled next year if we do it again, and I can't imagine that we wouldn't. But
so $10. So that's our. So the church monetarily is giving $10 per box, or we spend $10 to ship each box to Samaritan's Purse when they pack it into their big thing. Like, what do you mean by that?
That is our commitment. For every box we fill, we are also giving $10 to Samaritan's Purse to offset the cost of shipping.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay,
so when we send them back to Samaritan's Purse, we'll probably send a large box full of these boxes, correct? Okay.
And are they decorating the boxes or doing anything with that? Because I was talking to someone else about this, and they said that their church, the way they do it is, even if you don't give something to donate or whatever, you can still bring a shoebox and like decorate and stuff, and then you can pack it that day. So I have
no idea how this part works. I really
that's because it's all new.
I know nothing.
That's right. That's why it's probably a good idea that we started small. We'll figure out how to do it. Then next year, Sandy will have it streamlined.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
She'll have it streamlined 5 minutes in.
You're probably right.
So, and it's interesting.
So that's coming up on what we say November 4th. That evening, the churches in the community of St. Joseph are providing a Thanksgiving meal. Yeah. We are doing that at the Prince of Peace Lutheran Church. They've been kind enough to host it. We've told them that we can't be 100% involved because we were already committed to this, what looks like, again, I don't know, it looks like a pretty involved activity for us on the 4th. But since that dinner is taking place in the evening, we will be able to have some people there who are, if we find some people that are interested in going, and I think we will, but we are contributing to the food and everything else for that meal. And that's kind of an exciting thing that we're doing. I would rather see it happening on Thanksgiving, and we've talked about that at the planning meetings. But again, it's the first time the churches have come together to do something like this. So it'll be a good day to figure out how to do it. And again, somebody will take that and have it maybe a little more streamlined for next year.
Yeah.
And on right before that, the first Wednesday of the month, is that the first or the second? of
So
November.
that'd be November. Yeah.
So we've got our
Sorry,
first Wednesday evening service. Jeff Canfield will be bringing the word, and I believe he's going to be speaking on the last trumpet. Jeff, as many of you know, pastored a church for around 20 years and did a deep study on the last days, particularly the book of Revelation, and has published a book on that, and doesn't hold to what is a fairly common view of the rapture. He's a post-trib guy. Has pretty much won me over to that side, although I'm not as dogmatic as he is. But he does make a great scriptural case. And I remember he was here years ago to do, I think, a 3-night series of meetings on the last days.
Right.
And I only caught the last night of that because I was pastoring in Farmers City when that happened. I just wasn't free to come over and catch those. But I do remember him talking about the last trumpet, and I'm not going to give anything away. I haven't heard it. I don't know what his sermon is going to sound like on that Wednesday night. But the bottom line is, there's only one last trumpet. The last trumpet is the last trumpet. It's not like there's a trump for us and a trump for the people who survived the tribulation. But I think it's timely. It's timely for a number of reasons. One, people, it's always a. Not always and not for everybody, but there is a general interest in the things of the last days. That's what first got me excited about reading my Bible and going to church, different kind of churches, when they started talking about that kind of thing. Yeah. And then, of course, with what's going on in Israel now.
Yes. Anytime anything happens in the Middle East.
There you go.
Exactly right.
Yep.
Which always seems to be something going on. But it just, I don't know, for some reason.
I know.
People have felt this way forever. Like you even read in the scriptures, people say he's coming. It's right around the corner. You know.
Yeah.
So I know people have felt this way, but man, there's just something that feels like we are closing the chapter on this season of humanity, and it's just
we might be.
Now, this could be completely out of like craziness, but like birth rates have declined. And like, if there's a lower human population on the earth, like, do you think that's God's grace? As not as many people are here to experience all that, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, all across the world, like, birth rates are declining.
Birth rates are declining, but I don't think the overall population has declined.
Well, I just didn't know. Okay, so if not increasing in population that fast, I just didn't know if, like, you know what I mean? Like,
people are still a lot more people being born than are dying. But you're right. The rates, the replacement rate, they talk about for a culture or something. We're well below that as a nation.
Right.
And it'll be interesting to see where things go, how long it could go. You're right. I mean, things are coming together so quickly that it could conceivably be very, very soon. On the other hand, like you said, every time something happens over there, there's a huge flare of interest. Could this be it? Now, and it wasn't that long ago. When 2018 when things blew up over there last? I mean, in a big way. 2017, 2018.
You're talking about Israel.
In Israel, yeah. But it's a little bit. There's something different every time, and it's something to be concerned about, and it's something to be excited about. But we should never be fearful. But when you look at what's going on with the Russia-Ukraine thing, and how much we're resource-wise, how much we have sent over there, how much has that depleted us? And with China doing all their saber-rattling over Taiwan, this would be, now while we have committed, to do what we can to be a stabilizing influence in the Middle East, to keep, our stated goal right now is to keep this from spilling over into a broader conflict. I get that. I think that's a wise policy. However, if we genuinely commit to that, does China see this as a great moment of distraction? Now, they can't do much about us if they're committed over there. And I know, the whole idea behind America's extraordinary military and the expense and everything involved in that is to be able to fight a multi-front war.
Yeah,
I get it, and I think we could. You'd like to think we could handle that, but. It opens up such a can of worms scripturally. Where exactly does the United States fit into this grand plan? I'm not going to get into my views on that, and I would end up just qualifying everything to death. But I'm certainly not going to go as far. I don't know. I know we probably talked about this a little bit last week, but and I don't know if I mentioned this. There's a woman on Facebook who just absolutely is 100% convinced that God has showed her that Israel is not even in the Middle East. It's in the United States of America. And all these sites and all these rivers there in the Grand Canyon. That's like, no, I don't think that's it at all.
Can I tell you what I'm thinking? What I think? I think America. I think God ordained our nation for a purpose.
Yeah,
and I feel like that purpose has been served.
Yeah, there you go. That's a very common.
If you think about it, like we support Israel. America. Not that we're the only ones, but just the progenitor of technology, and culture and everything. Basically, to say like usher in time. Like I saw a post from somebody the other day that made a very good case that Hollywood, and not just Hollywood, but that culture that spills over all over the world is like Babylon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not that Hollywood is a place of it, but just like that culture and that sexuality
Spirit
and all
Babylon.
that. Yes.
Right.
And he made a very good point. For the very interesting, and that like America, winning the World War II, and helping all that come together, and then the UN and bringing Israel back.
Sure.
It's like kind of like I feel like America at one point was, just all out for God. And then it's like we've so far drifted from that. Like, has America served its purpose? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I know this will bother a lot of people. I don't know if America has ever been all out for God. There's a really important distinction. And speaking of Joe Thomas, he's the first one to call me on this. And I knew that wasn't like, oh, shoot, I was wrong about that. It was just an important distinction to make when I talked about how God has blessed this country because America has sent missionaries. America has provided Bibles. By far the number one exporter of not only missionaries, but of Christian
what I was
literature.
thinking. Yeah.
And he said, let me stop you right there. He says, America didn't do that. The church did that.
Yeah, that's true.
And Christopher Alam said the same thing. That's not what America did. That's what the church in America did. However, the church was able to do that. The church couldn't have done that from Russia. There was a church in Russia. The church couldn't have done that from England. America provided a very fertile ground for the church to thrive in and do.
Right, and that's what I guess I meant. I didn't mean America as a nation was sold out for, but our founding documents, everything about the founding of the country was very much based in Judeo-Christian values and ethics.
I think probably the best way to put it is that America, if you want to say America is blessed by God, it's because of the people in the church in America.
There you go.
It's because we've had It's because we had the religious freedom.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's what we're experiencing now. Is we're getting into there is less and less, Christianity. It feels like there's less and less Christianity in America.
It does, and unfortunately, even among conservatives, and this is where I just kind of wrestle with this whole. Militant stand. I'm not saying that I've got particular ministers and public figures in mind, but it's like you're fighting really hard to maintain what? Are you concerned with this is the mission of the church? Are you concerned with advancing the kingdom of God, or are you only concerned with preserving your rights and freedoms?
Right.
And that cuts right to the heart of the prosperity message, the healing message. Yeah, I believe God wants us prosperous. I believe He wants us healed and whole. But for what?
Exactly.
It's to do the work that He's commissioned us to do. Right. All this other stuff is
exactly.
Yeah. It can be. You can call it gravy, or you can call it a huge distraction. We can get so distracted by the blessings that we forget the mission we're supposed to be on.
True.
Exactly. Worshiping the creation rather than the Creator.
That's right.
Seems like I read that somewhere.
Right. But we were kind of talking about something that made me think. So we were talking about the Thanksgiving, meal, and we do other, Thanksgiving baskets. We do wrapping Christmas presents. We do obviously these shoe boxes now, and it might be an answer that everyone already knows, but it brings up the question: why is it so important that the church is so active in the community and is in this sense of giving?
Right.
Why is it so important that, because, there's some people who, might think we just come to church to be fed. And if we can bring other people in the church, that's good. And that is the goal, to bring people to Christ. But why is it so important that we do these things where we are offering up time and money and resources to the community, to the world, to surrounding areas?
And answering that off the cuff, there are two things to keep in mind. I always go back to what Paul wrote when he said, do good unto all men, especially those of the household of faith. And I think you can call it a stratification if you want, but I do think it's fair to say our first, we need to be taking care of one another. Church takes care of the church. Never been fond of churches, getting government handouts or anything like that. You just open up to their influence. We should be taking care of our own. For instance, the benevolence fund that we have here at Living Word is primarily and really on paper solely for helping church members in particular need, because we have a way of working with them. It's not just, and every pastor, every minister, every church secretary who happens to hear this will know what I'm talking about. There's never a shortage of phone calls saying, I need help with my rent. I need help with a hotel room. I need help with a hospital bill. I need help with my electric bill. And it breaks your heart. Right. But if we just said, okay, every time somebody called, we would have run out of money a long time ago.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
There's got to be a way of, all right, we do want to help you, but we can't just throw money at everybody who calls on the phone.
Right.
But at the same time, as God blesses and as the resources are there, we want to go beyond the four walls of the church and taking care of our own and reaching out, especially times like this, and what this does is it expresses our recognition of the dignity, the value of every human life, whether they're part of our household of faith or any household of faith. We want to show the love of God. God so loved the world. Yes. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. And so we want to reflect that and just reach out to people just to bless them, no strings attached. And hopefully this is a way of shining a light. I think it's, we need to accompany all of these outreaches, all of the ways we bless people. We ought to be bathing these activities in prayer. Otherwise, it can be a waste. And at the same time, let's don't be naive and think, well, shoot, we reached out to 100 people and only 2 people responded in faith or came to church. Hey, look, if one person got saved through that, you measure all of that one person's eternity against what we put into this. It's absolutely worth it.
Well, and plus you got to think also the word being sown into their lives.
That's right.
And I don't want to sound cliche about it, but even just the love of God, like just kindness in general, being sown in their lives and them knowing where it's coming from. And I like to think that we're not pushing or promoting the church. It's like we're promoting Jesus. Like this is because we love Jesus and Jesus loves you. Like we wanted to help you. We want to serve you. Yeah. And one of the things we're getting ready to do in youth group, we did it last year and it was everything turned out pretty good. And we're doing it again this year is Dare to Share Live. And it's Dare to Share is a ministry. They've been around for a long time, 20, almost 30 years, I think. Greg Steer heads up that ministry, and their goal is to encourage and equip students to share their faith. There's only so much we can do at church. Right. And I love when students bring guests into church. I have an hour on Wednesday nights. You have an hour and a half on Sunday mornings for the church to impact these people. That's lifetime impact is going to be rare in those short circumstances. A lifetime impact comes with relationships. That's right. It comes in building relationships with other people. And so when we reach out, when we do these service activities, when we do meals, when we do whatever gift packings or anything like that, man, we are reaching out with relationship, with the love of God and showing these people. Because when we've had people that have come to church because of relationships, you know what I mean?
Well, you're an example of that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah,
that's right.
I'm absolutely an example. I had no desire to go to church when I was in high school. And my girlfriend dragged me to church. I mean, kicking and screaming might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but I really just did not. I mean, it took her, you can even ask her, it took her months and months and months of asking me to come to church before I came. Yeah. And I literally gave this example in youth group last night. When I came to church before... How did I put this, man? I even rhymed it last night. It sounded so good. It was such a social share. It was awesome. But when I started coming to church, I was won over by the people before I was ever won over by the gospel. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's not how I said it last night. I seriously, please trust me. I said it so much cooler last night.
Did you say it rhymed last night?
You did. Wow, I don't remember how I put I don't even remember how I put it. And I usually, because we did a fireside chat last night, and I usually have a microphone I hook up to my phone and try to record at least, and I totally forgot to hook it up last night and hit record, but I know where I would have had it to play. Anyway, but it's before, when I started coming to the church, the people welcomed me in. Yeah. The people accepted me, talked to me, were friendly to me, and that spoke volumes before a Bible was ever even cracked open.
Yeah.
Because that relationship opened me up to receive what these people had to say, including yourself, Pastor Scott. Like Pastor Scott, who knew me from nothing. Now, I was an outgoing person, so I wasn't withdrawn or anything like that.
Right.
It is hard to reach some people who just don't talk. You know what I'm saying? That's a different level of trying to just break open a shell and reach out. And there are people that are certainly talented at doing that. But like so I was outgoing, so maybe it's a little bit easier to talk to me or whatever. But man, I was absolutely floored when I first started coming, and just fell in love with the church.
Yeah,
and then met Jesus through the church, and that is what we're doing. We're not. I love when people bring people to church, but it's like, man, you need to bring the church to people. Bring Jesus to people before you invite them to church. I think that's so crucial.
And that's the living the gospel. That's
absolutely.
what when Jesus said, people will know you or know me by your love for each other. That's exactly what that is right there.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's a really cool. I like how you said that. How you people won you over before the gospel ever hit.
And kind of bring this not full circle, because we've been kind of going in loops, but that's one thing that I am excited about this community Thanksgiving dinner, that people, not just the churches, we always get together for a Thanksgiving community service, but it's good. This is an opportunity for people potentially outside, even well outside the churches here in St. Joe, to see the church in St. Joe coming together, seeing our love for one another. And that's the kind of thing that absolutely can have a huge impact on people.
Absolutely.
Just to jump, I think it's so cool that it's the different, churches in the church, in the St. Joe, because I don't know if it's just me, but like right now on social media, I'm seeing so much division between denominations.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so cool that, like you said, these people are going to show up to this Thanksgiving dinner. It's not like it's the Church of Christ doing it, or that, Word of Faith Church. Oh, this is just all the churches doing this.
Right.
This is just Christians,
Yes.
That's right.
being
like Christ.
And that's one of the things I love about getting together for our not the Thanksgiving meal necessarily, but for the Thanksgiving service. And we don't do a Christmas. What is? Don't we? I thought we did one
Good
more.
Friday.
Good Friday, and I thought we should do a National Day of Prayer one too.
We used to do that. Yeah.
Anyway, but when we get together for like multi-church, like nights of worship or anything like that, I just love that. I love seeing other people. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize they went to such and such church. Or it's just really cool to get together.
That's right.
As the church in St. Joe. And come together and do things like that. I love it.
Absolutely.
Very encouraging.
So have a relationship with someone.
That's right.
Be the church. That's the takeaway for this week.
That's exactly right.
Be the church.
And that's one of the things we talked about in youth group last night. We've been in the book of James, and we were in James chapter 2, I think starting in verse 14, when it talks about faith without works is dead. And it was very interesting to talk about that. It's like, if you are putting your faith in Jesus Christ and you're receiving him as your Lord and Savior, that faith, that relationship with Jesus is going to change your life. And if it doesn't change you, if it doesn't change the way you act, the way you talk, the way you... Now, granted, those changes are going to happen over time. Don't get me wrong. Some of these changes aren't going to happen overnight. But there's going to be fruit born out in your life. There's going to be changes in your life. If not, then was that a life-saving faith?
There you go.
There's caveats to all that. I get that. I'm just saying that the section we read over in James last night, man, it was really good to have that discussion, that talk over with the students.
People can... I'm a big believer in the conversion experience. Okay.
Yeah, right.
That can come as a result of a conversation or an acquaintance. Discipleship is only going to happen in relationship.
Absolutely.
And that's what Jesus has told us to do, make disciples.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about our small groups too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That is so much easier to dig in and create and disciple others and be a blessing to others and really have those deep conversations in a small group rather than a Sunday morning service.
Yeah.
So
all right.
Awesome.
Well,
I don't know about you guys. I've got to go.
Yeah.
If you guys want to continue on without me, you can.
Well, you have to go deliver meals.
I do. I've got Meals on Wheels.
Speaking
today.
of being the church,
that's right.
There.
That's right.
No, that'll wrap it up for us tonight or today. We'll catch you guys next week. I think the way this is going to work, we're going to post these early Friday mornings. So keep an eye out. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Peace out.
Peace out.